In the kitchen, Himitsu greeted Kagome very formally. Good evening, Iruma-senpai. Good evening. The latter tried to hide her surprise as hard as she could, but I'd already learned to recognize the shades of emotion on Kagome's face, so I quickly noticed she wasn't too happy about my friend's late visit. You see, it just so happened that Iomura's house burned down, so I'm letting her and her grandfather stay at my place until... I looked at Kagome, seeking support, but she apparently wasn't too concerned about what Himitsu thought of the situation. Of the situation. Until they decided what to do next. Is that right, Iomura-san? That naming made Kagome pucker her lips tight, but she replied quite calmly. Right, Nico-san.
Nico-kun, if you need anything, I'm happy to help.
We have all we need, I think. Oh, god damn it, Himitsu. I'm so sorry.
If you need me to help out, I can definitely help out.
No, we're good. Himitsu, I know you're trying, sweetie. You're trying. It breaks my heart to see you trying so hard and getting so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. My words sounded silly, the awkward silence becoming unbearable. It seemed that it had taken Himitsu a lot of effort to come here, but I simply had nothing to say to her right now. Yes, there was another girl in my house. It wasn't even Catherine. It was someone way better. Yes, my explanation sounded weird, and she probably took it as is, at best, a half-truth.
Iomura-senpai, I'm sorry that your house burned down.
Thank you. She replied begrudgingly.
I've known Nico-kun my entire life. He might be unbearable at times, but he's generally a good person.
Thanks for the compliment.
I'll try to remember that. Well, if you need anything, you know where to find me.
Bye. Once Himitsu was gone, I felt relieved. Very nice of her to drop by and check on you. I'm just surprised she didn't do so earlier. Well, Himitsu, you see, I can't say it's easy for her to see. Me in your house? Kagome finished my thought. Well, yes. Yes. Does she have feelings for you? I sighed heavily and turned away. It was unbearable to look at her at that moment. I don't want to discuss my relationship with Himitsu right now. We're just friends. You feel guilty. I didn't know if it was a question or a statement. No, it's definitely a statement. I do feel guilty. Himitsu's a little fucking sweetheart, but, I mean, it's not a lot. But Kagome, though. Why would I? Because you also have feelings for her? As I recall, you're a future economics student, yet you're acting like an amateur psychologist. Alright, sorry. It really isn't any of my business. Kagome smiled conciliatory. By the way, how's that foreign girl in our class doing? Catherine? What about her? Well? She demonstratively rolled her eyes. Actually, I really didn't know how she was doing. Yeah, I know. We haven't talked to her since, for this entire recording session, for the last 5.5 hours. We have had absolutely no interaction with Catherine. We've seen her for a brief moment at the park, but we've had zero interaction with her. We have no idea. Maybe she was on a date with Michael. Maybe she was even already in his bed. Nico-san, you seem to be enjoying inexplicable popularity with the girls of our school. Oh, Catherine couldn't care less about me, believe me. If you say so. She's already found a new suitor. I'm not insisting you tell me. It's just to keep the conversation going. I looked at Kagome. Her pose as she sat in the chair was casual and relaxed, and her smile mysterious. One could imagine that she was a more experienced older sister about to give me some advice on how to talk to women. You know what, Iomura-san? I can deal with all that myself. I hope you haven't left a spot for me in your harem. What the... I'm very grateful for your help, Nico-san, but not that grateful. Yeah, whatever. Kagome's jokes stung more than they should have. You're so serious today, Nico-san. One of us has to be. I guess. I spent the rest of the evening with the book in my hands and no idea what Kagome did. When I walked to their room to say goodnight, the lights were already off. Another crazy day was over. I only had to get in bed and close my eyes. Yet, I was tortured by the feeling of something left unsaid, or undone, as if I'd had to leave a theater in the middle of a performance. Ellie, her grandfather, Irina, Kagome, her grandfather, Himitsu, Catherine. All the actors had stayed to finish the play, the finale of which I was destined not to see. What? I didn't quite understand that metaphor, but okay. Nico-san, wake up. I heard somebody's persistent voice in my dream. I'll be late for school. Sunshine, just 5 more minutes. I opened my eyes, but instead of Himitsu, I saw Kagome leaning over me. Oh, it's you. Disappointed? A little. What time is it? Late enough to not make it to school on time. She kept standing there like she was waiting for something. Well... What? Maybe you'll let me get dressed? Ah, yeah, sorry. Kagome blushed and ran out of my room. We had a quick breakfast and left for school. I was trying to wake you up for an hour. Get used to it. I scoffed, at the same time trying to drive back the stubborn yawning. Thank God I won't need to tolerate it for long. Her words somehow stung me, like if an old friend had just told me that they were moving abroad forever. What, Nico-san? Did you hope you'd found a free cook? Guess I did, I said bitterly in response, picked up my pace. We split up closer to school, and I had to just stand and wait for Kagome to move ahead. Our classroom was in turmoil. Everyone was broken up into small groups, feverishly discussing something. Only Kagome sat alone, her head resting on her hand, looking out the window. Michael approached. Have you heard what happened, Nick? No. Kobayashi Ellie was kidnapped. Kidnapped? By who? They say Asakura had a hand in it. Asakura? I exclaimed. Michael squinted and tilted his head strangely. It's like you're not surprised she was kidnapped at all. Why, of course, because it's me keeping Ellie hostage in my basement. Michael, seriously. I'm serious. Fine, what are they saying? Asakura and a girl from Kobayashi's class. Kawashima. Yes, Kawashima. Seems like they had an argument about something. An argument? I smirked. Either way, they've been detained and now being interrogated at the police station. Where did the information come from? Everyone just knows it. Maybe someone overheard the teachers. What a trustworthy source. I wanted to add something else, but then the bell rang. Was Kagome right after all? The situation was developing a bit too rapidly. Plus, if I were to look at Asakura and Kawashima, in just a few days they'd gone from smearing swear words on my door and breaking a window to setting a restaurant on fire and kidnapping people. On the other hand, I had no reason to defend them. And no desire, most importantly. Except that if they were actually innocent, imprisoning them wouldn't help find Ellie. During the break, I nodded at Kagome, indicating that I wanted to talk. I didn't want to go to the roof today, so I brought her to the old school wing. After all, today we certainly weren't going to bump into Ellie here. Well, happy now? I am. I'm not going to hide it. Oh, I love that smirk. She grinned and looked up into my eyes in a way I found embarrassing. What if they have nothing to do with it? What matters is finding Ellie, not getting revenge on Kawashima. Personally, I'm not too worried about what happens to Kobayashi. Right, what am I saying? Nico-san, don't tell me you pity them. If they're innocent, even if you assume they had nothing to do with it, nothing to do with Kobayashi's kidnapping, it was definitely them who burned down my restaurant. Well, if that's what you believe, don't you? It just seems to me that... I sighed and looked at the door of the old music class. Things are getting too intense too quickly. First vandalism, then arson, now kidnapping. I'm willing to admit that at least Kawashima isn't an idiot, but isn't this a little too much? Besides, don't forget that they basically worshipped Ellie, and they had something to lose. Do you think they know what loss is? Kagome scoffed with disdain. I don't think they're burning with desire to find out. She noticed the direction of my gaze and jerked her shoulders in irritation. Nico-san, it sounds like you're defending them. I'm not defending anyone. I just want to learn the truth and rescue Ellie. You seem to be too concerned about her. If something happens to the granddaughter of the head of the Kobayashi Corporation, we might all be found guilty. You haven't forgotten that I was in his office just recently, right? Is that the only reason? The only reason? I flung my arms up in the air and stepped away from Kagome, demonstrating my extreme disappointment and lack of forethought. I'm planning to make it to graduation, and if I remember right, you were going to get into a university too. But there's no blame on us for Kobayashi's disappearance, so what should we be afraid of? Are you sure there isn't? I only said it out of pure contrarianism. Sometimes you just want to say something back so badly you can't keep quiet, even knowing the consequences of your pointless remark. Well then why don't you take me to the police? Would that make you feel better? Kagome got predictably mad. I said we, not you. Maybe I kidnapped her, but now I have amnesia and don't remember. I don't know about amnesia, but you definitely have amnesia. Amentia. Is that similar to dementia? She prepared to leave, then suddenly stopped. Right, I need to go to the police station after school. I'm telling you now so you won't complain about my absence later. What for? She frowned. For my restaurant. My restaurant burned down, remember? The world doesn't revolve around your Kobayashi. Why around my... But Kagome wasn't listening and quickly walked in the direction of our classroom. Every long fall is inevitably followed by a rise. But had we reached the lowest point on our graph? I was walking home, constantly looking around, but noticed no one following me. Did Kobayashi Jun also believe that children were to blame? Children. I smirked inside. What else would I call them? Teenagers? Well, that didn't change much. Children can be far more cruel than adults because they can't distinguish between good and evil. When they were children, did anyone bother to explain to Kawashima and company how they were supposed to behave? But the matter with Ellie was still unresolved. I can imagine them kidnapping Kagome, but it didn't appear like they had any problems with their leader. Morike-san was watching a meaningless TV show and was happy to see me back.
Good afternoon, Nico-kun.
Kagome went to the police station after school. Did you know about that?
Maybe. I can't remember.
Alright. I had to make lunch, but as soon as I opened the fridge, the doorbell rang. According to Chaos Theory, anyone could be staying at my doorstep, from Himitsu to the Prime Minister of Japan. But it was just Arena. Nikolai, so good to find you home. First, you knew perfectly well that I was home. Second, isn't it dangerous to show up at my front door in the middle of the day? Don't worry, you aren't under surveillance anymore. Thank God. I said with irony, but this piece of news did bring me significant relief. Will you invite me in? If I'm not being watched, we can talk outside. I turned around and looked at the hall. Morike-san is at home. Oh, but we already know each other. Arena exclaimed cheerfully. And yet, as you wish. She frowned. We walked to the road. I leaned against the fence and crossed my arms over my chest. Must have already heard that the police detained several students from your school. I have. Do you believe me now? How would I put it? She sniffed and looked around. I'd never noticed how cozy your neighborhood is. Well, Arena thought for a moment, then finally replied in a serious tone. I don't know what kind of relationship you have at school. Those kids are just kids. You wouldn't be able to kidnap Kobayashi Ellie while her guards are watching. And we have no information that any kind of. Oh, we have the way they use commas constantly. And we have no information that any kind of, let's say, clash took place. So you don't believe they're involved either. Either? A school friend was doubting that too. A friend, huh? Is that all? Nikolai, it feels like you're interrogating me. She wrapped her arms around herself and pretended to shy away from me. You also shouldn't forget that most of the kids that go to your school aren't from normal families. If you want my opinion, I think they were framed. By who? Irina waved her finger in front of my face. I don't have all the answers. But you at least don't suspect me anymore, right? You can suspect a criminal. If you really had been the one who kidnapped Kobayashi Ellie, you'd be a hero to us. I see. In any case, it seems like it must have been someone outside the system, and if you know anyone like that, I suggest you take a very close look at them. Why does it sound like you're hinting at someone in particular? And who would that be? Say, Iwamura. Irina took a couple steps away from me. Even if I wanted it to be your friend. And why would you? Because then we'd know the whereabouts of Kobayashi Ellie. Do you want to know that? Well, we can't abandon a poor girl in trouble. Yeah, sure. I repeat, even if I wanted it to be your friend, I don't believe she'd be able to pull it off. You just don't know, Kagome. I smirked. That's not what you say. You're like, I don't think your friend can pull it off. No, my friend could absolutely do it. Don't you doubt my friend, alright? My friend kicks ass. She could totally kidnap someone if she wanted to. Like, that's not the response. Nah, I don't think she'd be capable of it. Oh, you don't know her like I do. Like, no, that's not the comeback you think it is, my guy. Do you want to tell me something important about her? She squinted cunningly. No, nothing really. Fine then. Irina looked at her watch and moved a strand of hair away from her face. We'll keep in touch. Don't disappear. I make no promises. Where would I, anyway? I grumbled after she'd left. Kagome returned from her visit with the police in the evening. Maruka-san was sleeping while I sat in the kitchen, pointlessly flipping through the pages of a book, unable to comprehend any of the words in it. It's as quiet as a graveyard in here, Kagome said in surprise when she walked into the kitchen. I was waiting for you. Well, here I am. Kagome didn't look to be in too good of a mood. Nobody's thought about dinner yet, I assume? I was waiting for you, I repeated in the same gloomy tone. Nico-san, I told you I'd go to the police. And how did it go? Nothing definitive yet. What, nothing at all? Well, they believe it was arson. No one in the neighborhood provided any useful information. No one saw or heard anything. I see. Felt strangely upset at her, but couldn't quite grasp the reason why. But I still had to tell her about Irina. That woman from the KGB came today. She said we're no longer under surveillance. That's great news, I continued, ignoring her enthusiasm. But she thinks Kawashima's gang was framed. By who? She doesn't know. Kagome looked at me carefully for a couple seconds, then walked to the fridge, began to take out ingredients to make dinner. Do you agree with her? She's got a point. It'd be stupid to ignore it. Why would you even believe that woman? Because she's your compatriot? I could hear how annoyed she was. Apparently Kagome really wanted to see Asakura and Kawashima behind bars. So far, her information has been accurate. And what else she told you? And what? Has she told you anything particularly sensational? What the fuck is going on? Is that showing up on the capture? That is. What's this fucking line? Has that always been there? That's definitely the game. There's nothing wrong with my monitor. There's this weird line across the screen. What's going on there? Actually, no, let me click out of it. Let me click out of the game just to be safe. Yeah, no, that's weird. There's something going on with this background here. It's like it's separated a little bit at this. It has a seam, which is weird. But whatever, I guess. Well, I wanted to answer, but I realized I couldn't think of any examples. For example, some information regarding my parents' death. I thought you already suspected something. That's different. You're saying that she's pretending to be a KGB major? I laughed, but I was starting to feel a surge of strange agitation. I'm going to stand up and pace around the kitchen. That's even stupider than... Do you even have any proof she is who she says she is? Well, she's Russian to start with. Do all Russians work for the KGB? Who would she work for then? Kagome turned to me and smiled mysteriously. I don't know. I decided not to react. Iwamura was clearly hinting at Kobayashi Corporation. But if that was the case, this whole situation was becoming way too complicated. Not only because I was just a student who knew nothing and posed no threat to anyone, but just in general. From the ontological viewpoint, so to say. Do you know what Occam's razor is? No, but I think you're about to tell me. Fuck, what is that? I know I've definitely heard it several times before. Occam's razor. God damn, I don't remember. Call me when dinner is ready. I snapped at her, grabbed my book, and left for my room. No, wait. You need to tell me about Occam's the razor. Occam's razor. I've heard it before. I should know what this is. What the fuck is Occam's razor? That sounds so familiar because I know I've heard it before several times. What the fuck ever. The rest of the day was peaceful. I didn't want any more pointless conversations with Kagome, and we only saw each other again at dinner. They usually went to bed earlier than me, so I kept reading in bed for a while, enjoying the silence of the house that was becoming more and more rare with every day. Finally, my eyes closed, and I easily fell asleep. Night-night. God damn it. I was honestly about to wrap up the recording session, but you can't give me a line like that and expect me not to be like, alright, let's keep going. I was woken by a noise from the yard, a familiar one, and it only took me a moment to realize what it was. What's going on? What's going on in the yard? You can't drop a line like, if you had just cut to like the next morning and be like, yeah, I woke up and I was all tired and stuff, then I'd be like, alright, wrapping up the recording session. We're done. But no, it's like, no, it's late at night. There's something in the yard. You can't expect me to just sit here and walk away from that. It was the noise of the planks I'd moved aside yesterday to let Arena out to the back alley. When I came to my senses, the silence of the night grew undisturbed once again. But I knew someone wanted to leave the house unseen. Unless Moriyuki-san was a sleepwalker, it could only be. I jumped out of bed quickly, got dressed, and chased after Kagome. If I'd been a minute late, she would have been disappeared into the endless labyrinth of alley under the cover of darkness, but I got lucky. I saw her silhouette a few dozen meters ahead, and hid behind a light post. She was holding a bag. Wherever Uemura was headed, she walked quickly and confidently. I tried desperately to remain unseen, so I had no time to wonder where Kagome was going exactly. We continued like that until we reached the station, where she stopped, looked around, but I managed to hide in the shadow of some trees. Then Kagome passed the turnstiles and walked up onto the platform. Were still trains going that late? I didn't have my wallet on me, but the ticket inspector was peacefully sleeping in his post, so I managed to jump over the turnstile unnoticed. Soon enough, a completely empty train did in fact arrive. It was some kind of overnight service to the depot. The trip took a while. I sat took one car? I sat one car away from Kagome, lying down on a seat in an uncomfortable position to make sure I couldn't be seen. She spent the entire time sitting motionless, tensely staring out somewhere in front of her. Then finally at one of the stations, close to the outskirts, Kagome abruptly got up and left the carriage, so quickly that I barely managed to jump out of mine. We were in a seaside district built up with warehouses. Kagome walked forward, confidently making her way through the eerie gloom and the endless rows of identical-looking buildings. I was getting more and more uneasy by the minute, not even because I was in an unfamiliar place in the middle of the night, because the girl I was following didn't seem to be afraid of anything at all. Not everyone would want to unwittingly spy on a maniac while he satisfies his perverted desires. Fuck. No. I don't know if I would have held out another half hour in this desolate place, but Kagome finally turned off toward one of the warehouses, which looked exactly like all the others. How could she tell them apart? She slid a door open and walked inside. God damn it. They did this with Everlasting Summer too. There was one of the love interests that was secretly fucking psychotic. Like, she was a crazy bitch. And like on the outside, she seemed like this sweet, she was kind of like the antisocial loner too. She was this sweet girl. She just wanted to, just chill and read her books. And coincidentally enough, she also clashed with the musician love interest very frequently. But then, like, the more you went down, you realize, oh wow, this woman is fucking crazy. Wow, and we're just watching that play out again, huh? Because, like, what do we think's in this warehouse? What do we think? I don't want to believe it was my girl Kagome. I don't want to believe it, but come on. This ain't a good look.